So I've been missing in action because I've been working on a project and I'm still not done with it, but I've got to return because there's a lot going on. You know, elections are around the corner in April 22nd, and a lot of important local races. And I was fired up about an article written by a good friend of mine, somebody I respect and admire still, just because we disagree on one article. I don't do to him what the local cartel do to me. Bernie said one thing wrong, cancel him. He's never invited to anything. He can't host anything. If we never say his name, he doesn't exist. No, I don't do that with people I respect and admire. I've known Tho Bishop for a long time, by the way, but he wrote an article and it was terrible. It was worse than terrible. It was mean-spirited. It was factually wrong. And I don't even think he's right about populism. And he's the expert. So we'll see about that. He gave me a book on populism. I haven't read it. You say, Bernie, you're coming to the debate unprepared. Why should this day be like any other day? So, I called Tho Bishop today and we spoke on the phone and he said, all right, well, hey, let me come on and we'll hash it out. And I said, wait a minute, you're too smart for that. So, but of course, we're going to be doing that tomorrow. But this is going to be a pretty tough critique on an article that he wrote that I think is absolute trash. And I'll tell you why in detail. First, however, let me thank a couple of sponsors, and then we're going to get right to it.
Strong, effective leadership. 3 words that could mean the difference between prison and your freedom. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
All right. Let's get to this article. And I believe it was dated February 21st, so it's been out a little while. It was on Substack. And in my critique, which I will post, oh my gosh, I forgot that I forgot I didn't do the rest of it, but we're going to do it like this. I hope you can bear with me because it's very important. So I'm going to read to you. You see my little hat, my little image in there? That's my critique. So the article, you'll see, those are my critiques. And so I'm going to be as fair as I can, I'm going to read this straight through. This is only, by the way, the last third of the article, because the article, as you can see, was titled Trump, Napoleon, and the Beach Drive Sidewalk. Lessons from Trump 2.0 for both Doc Rowan and Alan Branch for Panama City's own golden age. And I put a footnote there that has the link to the article. So I'm going to read the article straight, and then I'm going to go back and tell you why I have such heartburn about it. All right, let's see. I say at the very top here, the article attempts to hijack the populist wave of the people, and Tho Bishop uses it as a tactic for powerful elites, local, to attack property rights and justify cronyism. And I say here that Tho gaslights the majority of locals who oppose the Beach Drive project in Panama City as selfish and unreasonable. This article sounds more like Biden and Kamala propaganda than Trump populism. My critiques to each paragraph are italicized below. I'm going to read you the article straight through, and then I'm going to go back and I'll tell you my problems with it. He says, as he talks about populism and sort of the mood of the country right now, and he weaves it into a local issue, Beach Drive, and also the Panama City race, in particular, the mayoral race, which has Doc Rowan as mayor. It's a 2-year seat, so every 2 years they have to run again, and Doc Rowan is running again against Alan Branch. All right, so I'm going to read this now. This is going to be straight article with no commentary, and you tell me what you think. So why is this relevant for Beach Drive? Because the sin of the federal government is itself the core of what drives most of the skepticism of the multi-use path. The question of whether or not the local government is capable of achieving its stated objectives or a thin veneer for local cronyism. Now, this question is not the one posed by the yard signs one views while driving to downtown Panama City. This is not a question of protecting mostly dead trees or property rights. Watching 5 to 8 hour long Panama City Commission meeting requires listening to a regular cast of Beach Drive residents who rotate a list of fallacious grievances, all grounded in their underlying desire to keep fellow Bay County residents from having the ability to enjoy a historic, beautiful, and iconic part of our community. Second page. It would indeed be a great shame to limit public access to enjoying this essential part of our community's history. As such, the real question is not the wisdom of the project, but the capability of Panama City's government to successfully build a sidewalk multi-use path without it becoming a grifting boondoggle. Assurances about the project being paid for by an $8 million state grant fall on deaf ears if the public doesn't believe it won't inevitably need a bailout from the city's general fund. By the way, there were 1 or 2 paragraphs in here that I took out. I took them out because they were good. I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. I took them out because they were long historical. It was a long historical paragraph pointing to the legacy of the area. And I just felt like I wanted to stay focused on what I had a problem with. All right. But it did not take away from Tho's argument. So I'm being fair. The lack of public trust in the venture itself is well earned. I'm reading Tho Bishop's article. Bay County has long been famous for relatively simple public projects far exceeding budgets and expectations. In downtown Panama City in particular, heartburn remains for the expense and complications of the Panama City Hall building and Tommy Oliver Stadium, though not technically a Panama City government project. Additionally, public trust has never recovered in the community from the federal investigations into contractors from Hurricane Michael, which produced more scandalous quotes from the FBI than convictions. It was this underlying mistrust that has helped pave the way for Panama City to undergo significant rotation in political leadership. None of the current commission voted on the City Hall project. The 2023 election itself saw new faces, like 3 of the 5 commission spots. Jonathan Hayes entered the role of city manager just last year. In theory, the sins of the past should no more placed upon the current leadership, than the failures of Dan Snyder weigh on the future of the Washington Commanders. And yet that distrust extends to the point where building a simple sidewalk multi-use path has become one of the most heated issues in all of Bay County. One so controversial that the commission itself will now pass the future of it to voters, rather than own the decision itself. As such, it has created a fascinating dynamic where local populist energy has been focused to benefit a small handful of not in my front yard Beach Drive residents at the expense of the broader public. Along with the referendum on Beach Drive, the upcoming Panama City election will allow a unique opportunity for residents to dictate what the future of Panama City populism looks like in practice. Am I on the right page here? Let's see. Hold on. Yes. All right. I'm looking at a bigger screen than anyway. On the one side, you have talking about the upcoming mayoral race. You have Mayor Doc Rowan, who has what could be called an anti-vision of the city, focused on battles against new projects, and prefers to limit city rebuilding efforts to the restore as was policies of FEMA when it comes to major issues such as the marina. His campaign leans into the lack of public trust and uses it as a cause to restrain what can be accomplished on behalf of residents. On the other, you have a serial entrepreneur, Alan Branch, who has highlighted failures within the city to properly communicate fundamental governing issues such as code enforcement violations and local red tape. Again, I'm reading Tho Bishop's article straight through. Running on transparency and a vision to technologically improve the relationship between residents and the local government, his campaign seems focused on addressing the root causes of eroding public trust, seeking to restore that muscle to accomplish bigger things for the city. All right. And we are on page 5. We're almost done with the article. Is the approach of the former Doc Rowan overly cynical? Is the approach of the latter, Alan Branch, unrealistically naive? In either case, the victor of that race, the Panama City mayoral race, will need to demonstrate what Trump 2.0 has done, but with a far more limited reservoir of underlying power. As a city manager run form of government, a local mayor is severely restricted in actual power. Executive orders cannot replace legislative action. Mayor Rowan seems aware of his limitations, running in 2025 with a slate of candidates to change the fundamental math of the city. To be successful, he needs not only re-election, but the election of Ed Young and Demetrius Reese alongside him. Even then, however, the question will be whether or not he can transform an anti-agenda into a positive one that can address the underlying systemic concerns he has about the decision-making and executive process of the city. Given his attacks on the character of the city manager, it would almost certainly require a change at that position. In 2024, he preferred Darnell Ingram, the civil rights compliance officer of Baltimore. Final page. For Mr. Branch, his election will require upon the ability of harnessing his individual talent and larger staff buy-in of his vision to upgrade the underlying programming of the city. It is difficult to restore public trust, but for example, when many city residents are being overcharged for broken water meters. As candidates, both are seeking to, like Trump, organize popular distrust of government as usual to promote their vision of Panama City. To govern, both will need to demonstrate the same level of outside-the-box effectiveness that Trump 2.0 is promising. Whomever is victorious, let us hope that Panama City is able to find its own great man. Now, there's a reason he says great man, okay? And it's a philosophical, political, and that's Tho Bishop is one of the best when it comes to political philosophy. I've always said that, right? Tho knows. We go back a long way. So he's talking about this political philosophy that basically explores whether or not times, eras, challenges, is that what creates the leader? Or is a leader, does he have enough, is he able to change the time, right? Does he have that much sway with the people? Is he, and that's really the question. And so there's this great man theory that no, actually great men are what made the times, not the other way around. And that's what he's referring to there. Now, he did just mention 2 candidates for Panama City. And they just had a candidate forum 2 nights ago, and I was there. And I shot some video of it, and I got to know them because Josh Street is up for re-election. Josh Street is up for re-election. The Grand Inquisitor, the one who always is smarter than everybody else in the room. Everybody else, he's so snarky. I'm going to stop. I don't want to get into that. It's just, I've got so many problems with that guy, and I've expressed them over time. But there is somebody running against Josh Street. You want to see who it is? His name is Demetrius Reese, and this is from the other night.
We have 3 city managers in Panama City.
No, that's not. That's Ed Young.
We just saw wasteful spending. We can see examples of that with the Chestnut property deal that was just passed several weeks ago. Again, as Mayor Rohan had already mentioned, properties worth $800,000. We paid well over $1 million for it. It's just wasteful spending at the taxpayer's dime. In addition to that, I think improvement in transparency and community engagement is paramount.
Vote for Demetrius Reese for Panama City Commissioner, Ward 4, on or before April 22nd. Now, Demetrius Reese, Ed Young, who is Jenna Halligus, is not running this year, so there's an open seat. So Demetrius Reese is running against Josh. He's running against Josh Street. You can vote out Josh Street, but you have to live in that ward in Panama City, in Ward 4. Or is it Ward 1? Hold on, let me be sure. Yeah, that's sort of important. Yeah, Demetrius Reese is running in Ward 4. But also, there are 2 people running for the seat that Jenna Halligus has left open. One of them is Robbie Hughes. Robbie Hughes has been on the planning board for more than 10 years, whether it's the county planning board or the state planning board. In my opinion, and I've known Robbie a little bit for a long time, and nice enough guy, but we don't need a bureaucrat who's plugged in. I think he's business partners with Jenna Halligus, isn't he? I believe that's true. But yeah, I'm not about a bureaucrat, and I ain't about Josh Street. I'll tell you what I am about, though. I'm about somebody who wants to go in and stop the fiscal insanity, and that's what Ed Reese is talking about. Here's what he said just 2 nights ago.
We have 3 city managers in Panama City. The first one, the chief one, makes $175,000 a year, and each assistant makes $125,000 a year, about $500,000 in one office alone. We have 714 employees in the city. We got 5 division heads. I've been in Air Force flights, wings, and commands. I've been in platoons in law enforcement. These numbers make no sense to me.
Vote for Ed Young for Panama City Commissioner, Ward 1, on or before April 22nd. So Ed Young lit it up the other night, and Panama City has, and he's Ward 1. He's Ward 1. Jenna Halligus is Ward, and that's in Panama City. You got to live in the ward to vote for the candidate. So all of the people in Ward 1 can vote for Ed Young, and all the people in Ward 4 can vote for Demetrius Reese. It's very exciting. And Doc Rowan sort of has aligned himself and is endorsing these 2 guys. So if the 3 of them get elected, the people who sit up there and make decisions, like Jonathan Hayes, the city manager who makes $175,000 a year, and gaslights and ignores real questions of homeowners on Beach Drive, and tries to obfuscate by saying, no, you can't reappropriate the money, the $8 million grant. Nobody said reappropriate. They said repurpose. But you can't, what was the other word that he was using? I wrote it down somewhere. Reappropriate, repurpose. Anyway. And the other thing is, the 3 of them were smart enough to buy campaign ads. So there's that. Those are paid campaign ads. All right. So let me go to the article. Back to the article, and I'll tell you what my problem is with it. All right. Hold on. Back to the article. So I'm going to read it paragraph by paragraph and I'll tell you what my problem is. And I've never been, let me look at you for a minute. I've never, I have so much respect for Tho Bishop. We go back a long way. He's the reason I got fired from the radio, that son of a gun. I guess I got to tell you this story because it does tie into all of this. So Tho Bishop in 2014, when I was a syndicated talk radio host throughout Florida, he was running, he was young, he was 25, and he was running for state representative against another 25-year-old by the name of Jay Trumbull. And I endorsed Tho Bishop over Jay Trumbull. And Jay Trumbull knew absolutely nothing about politics. And I think he would tell you that. He does now. Or government, more particularly. But Tho Bishop did. And so I endorsed Tho Bishop. And I endorsed him on the radio. It was a big radio show. And the local powers, they jumped all over the owner of the radio station, Don McCoy. And Don McCoy says, you got to stop doing that. And I said, that's what I believe. I can endorse him. And I did. And I knew what was going to happen. I gave a speech for Tho Bishop to his supporters. And I said, this is probably going to cost me everything, my job. I knew it. But there were other things as well. But I was not going to lie to you. I was not going to not tell you what I believe to be true. I'll lose everything before I do that. People say, oh, Bernie, you just say things for money. Are you out of your effing mind? I'll lose any amount of money to tell you what I believe. I'd like to make a living too, if that's okay. You know? So Tho Bishop and I go back a long way. And it's interesting that Jay Trumbull is part of this story from 11 or 12 years ago, isn't it? All right, let's get to the article. So here's my big problem with it. If I could put it in put it in a nutshell, is it's an article about populism. Okay. But it comes off as so elitist. It's just unbelievable to me. And it comes off as mean-spirited, which I'm not used to seeing Tho Bishop be. And I'm also not used to seeing him be so factually wrong about things, because he is only taking the information given to him by the government. And that is incredible to me from a small government economist and a Mises Institute guy. Anyway, but he is of course, the chairman of the local Republican, Bay County Republican Party. And he has been very important in getting better people elected into office. No doubt about it. And so this is a very specific critique. I want to make that clear. And he's probably going to come on the show tomorrow and set me straight. Here we go. So he writes, so why is this relevant, populism, for Beach Drive? Because the sin of the federal government is itself the core of what drives most of the skepticism of the multi-use path. The question of whether or not local government is capable of achieving its stated objectives, or a thin veneer for local cronyism. So here's my critique of that paragraph. The thesis is plucked out of thin air. All right. What is the thesis? Well, that the sin of the federal government is itself the core of what drives most of the skepticism about the Beach Drive project, the multi-use path. So I say, and I'm going to try to go through this quickly because I could spend too much time on this. The thesis is plucked out of thin air. Locals who oppose the unpopular project have given specific reasons unrelated to the federal government. This attempts to misdirect accountability. The framing seeks to shift the blame from the city commission to Democrats in D.C. Already we see logical fallacies known as a red herring to redirect the debate, and a straw man, because the article attacks a distorted version of the real argument. All right, now on to his second paragraph. Now, this question that he plucked out of thin air is not one posed by the yard signs. Now here come the ad hominem attacks and the diminishing of real issues. Now, this question is not one posed by the yard signs one views while driving to downtown Panama City. This is not a question of protecting mostly dead trees or property rights. Watching a 5 to 8 hour long Panama City Commission meeting requires listening to a regular cast of Beach Drive residents who rotate a list of fallacious grievances, all a universal there, all of them grounded in their underlying desire to keep fellow Bay County residents from having the ability to better enjoy a historic, beautiful, and iconic part of our community. Those so-and-sos, those Beach Drive residents who bought their homes thinking that the rule of law would apply, the rule of law being that you can, that the government doesn't change things all the time, that your property is your property and they won't come along and try to pretend that part of it's not, that they somehow are going to get ownership of the road that is under DOT jurisdiction. Anyway, so here's my critique. I said it's rich for an article about populism to assert that it's not a question of property rights for homeowners along Beach Drive. And what could be more elitist than to denounce a regular cast of homeowners who address their city commission as rotating fallacious grievances? I suppose, assuming their motive is the underlying desire, their motive is just an underlying desire to deprive other locals from the historical beauty that they already enjoy. I mean, that second paragraph is what fired me up the most. How does he know their motives? Because I watch him go up there and say the same thing over and over. Well, hell, I watch Josh Street say the same bullshit over and over. How about that? Bernie, thank you for the scholarly critique of the article. You're welcome. All right, let's get back to it. As for the mostly dead trees, an arborist indicated that more than 264 of them are in the crosshairs of the project. There's more than 264 because they didn't count the palm trees. Logical fallacies here, and I'm not going to give you the logical fallacies throughout the whole thing, but it would include a false dichotomy, ad hominem attacks, and again, the straw man fallacy. So back to our third paragraph, Tho Bishop. It would indeed, I don't care if he had said it would indubitably. This is still crazy as well. It would be a great shame to limit public access to enjoying this essential part of our community's history. As such, the real question, again, we go with, we're in the third paragraph, and an article about populism, he's telling the homeowners and the residents, I'm going to tell you what the real question is. The real question is not your property rights. The real question is not distrust of government. The real question is not that the road's going to be too small, that emergency vehicles and even big giant vehicles that transport gas and stuff, they can't get through. That's not the issue. Tho Bishop's going to tell you the real question. This is so elitist, I can't even believe it's coming from him. The real question is not of the wisdom of the project. but the capability of Panama City's government to successfully build a sidewalk multi-use path without it becoming a grifting boondoggle. Well, hell, Tho, everything else has. So this is my critique. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Sorry. Here we go for you guys. All right. This paragraph sounds like Commissioner Josh Street. It would be a shame to limit public access during one of his gaslighting monologues. Sure would be a shame. Again, we, the elitist, framing about the real question at issue that the people are too selfish or dumb to understand. I hope this is the last time I give logical fallacies. But again, it's a straw man, false dichotomy. It's this or that. Assurances, he says, about the project. Assurances from these guys. Being paid. I'm not going to get on him about misspelling a word because I do it too. Being paid for by an $8 million state grant fall on deaf ears if the public doesn't believe it won't inevitably need a bailout from the city's general fund. So I say government assurances fall on deaf ears because the public doesn't believe the government. No shit. And for good reason. Incidentally, that would be a tautology. All right, let's keep going. The lack of public trust, he says, in the venture itself is well earned. The Bay County has long been famous for relatively simple public projects far exceeding budgets and expectations in downtown Panama City in particular. Heartburn remains for the expense and complications of the Panama City Hall building and Tommy Oliver Stadium, though technically not a Panama City government project. Now, there's too much in here for me. But yes, it was very much Panama City. And when he says, I think he's going to say it in the next paragraph. Does he say it here that nobody on the current commission voted for that? Yes, that's wrong. Jenna Halligus did. Well, it wasn't kind of didn't vote. No, she did. I'm going to get you in writing so that you understand her role in it. It was big. It was big. She voted. First of all, you had 3 different companies who had bid to do the construction of these projects, City Hall especially, and GAC contractors, and then they were rated by staff number 3, and they were too higher. Anyway, then Commissioner Rader makes a motion in 2016 or so that GAC be the project manager, they act as the project managing firm of all of the contractors. And Jenna Halligus seconded that, saying, let's recycle the dough. Let's recycle the money and keep it in Bay County. Well, we did that. Well, I don't know where it went because, well, you know why. So then GAC Contractors acts as the managing firm of its own contracts. And then you have Mario Senior Gisbert's Rico, his girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Walgamot, who did the what do you need study, right? And then lost the laptop and got sued because she said, this is what y'all need after I talked to everybody. And then when her laptop got subpoenaed, it was lost. The city sued her, but last year, or about a year or 2 ago, the city decided, we'll drop the lawsuit. It's cool in the gang. So there's a lot more to that story. I said, of course, my answer is, of course, heartburn remains over the city and county officials shoveling tens of millions of dollars to their favorite consultants and contractors through a complex labyrinth of lies. What am I doing? Here we go. Yeah. Here, the article minimizes accountability along with the size and scope of fraud, waste, and abuse. And he says, additionally, public trust has never recovered from the community, from which federal investigations into contractors from Hurricane Michael, which produced more scandalous quotes from the FBI than convictions. Investigations into contractors. So I think you left something out. My response is, yeah, federal investigation into contractors. If omitting elected officials and public officials from that sentence was an oversight, it was a very significant one, and it feels manipulative. Again, with the underlying, okay, that's a word that he uses 5 times in the article, which again signals to me the elitism of his whole approach. Because listen, I view populism as a symptom, really, as sort of a symptom, an authentic grassroots mood, mistrust. He views populism as a tactic. All right. And I say only political strategists, politicians, scholars would view populism as a tactic used intentionally to frame issues and rally support. I mean, that's what we've had for the past 4 years. It's fake. When you've got Josh Street and these people, Jonathan Hayes, when they're the ones who are going to tell us what's populist and what's not populist, I mean, talk about topsy-turvy. Look, I'm going to, and again, Tho Bishop gave me the book, but to my point, only scholars, strategists, and politicians. I haven't read the book. He's going to teach it to me. I'm going to read it. He knows more about political philosophy than I do. That's for sure. But I argue populism is organic. It is a signal. It is a measurement of people's frustration. All right. And smart strategists would be smart to listen rather than try to manipulate and tell us what the real question is and what's the underlying reason. All of this is so elitist that this article fired me up. And I had to call my friend and say, man, I gotta critique this article. And again, look, man, this is not, Tho Bishop's a great guy. He's doing great things for America and for this area. It's my job, I guess, to criticize. He's trying to build bridges, get stuff done, get better candidates in, advance Republican values, and so on and so forth. Important stuff. Different roles. But in this one area, I believe he's wrong. So I say the word underlying appears 5 times in the article. It reveals the elitism of the writer. See, the unwashed masses might overlook such nuance in government, I suppose. This article suggests, let me get you caught up to where I am. Oh, boy. Yeah. This article suggests that populism is planned from above and controlled with bread and circuses by the big brains in political leadership. This paragraph is factually incorrect. Commissioner Jenna Halligus was involved. She did vote on the City Hall project. She pushed for it, including consultant Jennifer Walgamot, who faced a lawsuit for negligence. I believe that's what it was for. Might have been for worse. But last year, the city dropped the case. Back to Tho's article. In theory, the sins of the past should no more placed upon the current leadership than the failures of Dan Snyder weigh on the future of the Washington Commanders. And yet that distrust exists to the point where a simple sidewalk multi-use path, again, the framing, has become one of the most heated issues in all of Bay County, one so controversial that the commission itself will now pass the future of it to voters rather than own the decision itself. And he says, as such, it has created a fascinating dynamic where local populist energy has been focused to benefit a small handful of not in my front yard Beach Drive residents at the expense of the broader public. First thing I'll say is the fact that it's so controversial shows that there's a populist boost here. I said to that last paragraph, I said pure gaslighting. Pure gaslighting. Here, Tho Bishop invokes his inner progressive, which I've never seen before. Tho Bishop reaching deep down to his inner progressive, maybe even to his George Bush. Deep inside of him, there's a little George Bush. I don't know. I can't believe it myself. Hey, by the way, I told you Tho Bishop's my friend, and I can see him now laughing. I bet he's drinking a beer and enjoying the hell out of this, thinking, Bernie, I'm going to get you tomorrow. So we'll see. All right. I said pure gaslighting. This paragraph is beyond belief to me. It's a shameful attack on private property rights and the rule of law. He goes on. Along with the oh, by the way, and I did ask him today, should this issue, Beach Drive, is that a legislative issue that the commission should decide, or should that be passed on to a referendum and have the voters decide? Well, I was worried. I didn't know what he was going to say these days. He said, of course, that is a issue that the commission should decide. I said, okay, well, at least we agree on the structure of government still. Along with the referendum, he says, on Beach Drive, the upcoming Panama City election will allow a unique opportunity for residents to dictate what the future of Panama City populism looks like in practice. On the one side, you have Doc Rowan, who has what could be called an anti-vision of the city, focused on battles against new projects and prefers to limit city rebuilding efforts to the restore as was policies of FEMA. When it comes to major issues such as the marina, his campaign leans into the lack of public trust and uses it to cause to restrain what can be accomplished on behalf of the residents. Tho Bishop has become a real government is the answer. Government has all the solutions. Government is here to help guy. I can't believe it. I said, here's my critique. Can't believe I'm saying this about him. Smartest guy I know, just about. Here's where the faux intellectualism, not Tho intellectualism. Here's where the faux intellectualism really shines in the article. The GOP article poses as an analysis of the mayoral race between the two Republicans and populism. It presents Mayor Doc Rowan's platform as an anti-vision for the city. It ignores Rowan's fiscally responsible push to have FEMA save locals nearly $100 million. I don't know. It's something like that. Correct me on that. You say, Bernie, you got the number wrong. I know I do, but it's tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. It's approaching 100 million. So help me on that number. Instead, Mayor Rowan's conservatism is caricatured as a relic and a roadblock to progressivism rather than the populist that Mayor Rowan really is. I mean, an article from a Republican Substack written by Tho Bishop, I mean, it caricatures Mayor Rowan as a relic and a roadblock to what? Progressivism. This article is elitist and progressive. It is not populist. It is not conservative. It is not common sense. It is elitist claptrap. On the other hand, he says you have a serial entrepreneur, Alan Branch, who has highlighted failures within the city to properly communicate fundamental governing issues such as code enforcement violations and general local red tape, running on transparency and a vision to technologically improve the relationship between residents and the local government. His campaign seems focused on addressing the root causes, again, with the only Tho Bishop and Alan Branch and Josh Street and all the real smart people who are lecturing us about what populism is. Only they know the root causes, the underlying root cause, underlying root cause, underlying. Seeking to restore that muscle to accomplish bigger things for the city, because government is effective. I can't even believe my ears. I feel like Ed Young when he said 2 nights ago, "I can't believe my ears. I can't believe I'm hearing this." Man, I feel just like that right now. So I say, while it's true that Alan Branch brings tremendous ideas regarding transparency through technology and a few other ideas, his highlighting of failures within the city, that's overstated. Okay. Alan Branch has not been highlighting the failures within the city. All right. He just hasn't been. Now, he has worked on a few things that Tho mentioned in the article. But damn, silence is violence, man. Yeah, I mean, no, I take that back. But all that's necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And damn, there's a lot of bad stuff going on in City Hall. And I'm not seeing Tho Bishop or Alan Branch or anybody else with the big brains and positions and dough. I'm not seeing them say, "Hey, this is wrong." I'm just not seeing it. And I say, and Alan Branch has pushed hard for the Beach Drive project, and nobody can say he's been an outspoken critic of colossal spending and the shattering of public trust. And then Tho Bishop says, is the approach of Doc Rowan overly cynical? The approach of Alan Branch unrealistically naive? In either case, the victor of the race will need to demonstrate what Trump 2.0 has done, but with a far more limited reservoir of underlying power. A city-run form of government, like Panama City is, a local mayor is severely restricted in actual power. And I say the city is not a strong mayor form of government. That's true. But it's also true that the president is only one branch of the government. Trump's power derives from true populism, evidenced by an overwhelming mandate. And this is when I stopped writing and I got tired. The distinction made in this paragraph is overstated. In other words, saying that Trump has a lot of power, but the mayor doesn't have any power. That's, they both have limitations to their power. And I don't know what this sentence is even doing in this article, to be honest with you. Executive orders cannot replace legislative action. I just wrote, at the federal level, executive orders cannot be legislative in nature. Tho knows that. Absolutely, he knows that. And he's not arguing otherwise. They exist, executive orders, to clarify how laws that were made in Congress shall be executed. Not sure how this adds to the article. All right, we're almost done. Then Tho Bishop says, Mayor Rowan seems aware of his limitations running in 2025 with a slate of candidates who I shared with you a little bit ago, to change the fundamental math of the city. To be successful, he needs not only re-election, but the election of Ed Young and Demetrius Reese alongside him. Even then, however, the question will be, again, Tho's going to tell us what the question will be in a populist article. Here's what the question is, really. Here's what the question is going to be. Here's the underlying situation. Here's the root cause in an article about populism. All right, where am I? The question will be whether or not he can transform an anti-agenda into a positive one. False dichotomy. That's a logical fallacy, false dichotomy. I mean, he sets up these, I cannot believe this. it blows my mind because I have such respect for his intellect. But he's setting up these imaginary windmills to lean into, straw men to attack. The question is this or this. No, well, what about what they've really been saying? Gosh. Anyway, and then he says, this is another part that just fired me up. Given the mayor's attack, given Doc Rowan's attacks on the character of Jonathan Hayes, it would almost certainly require a change at that position. And then Tho critiques him for preferring Darnell Ingram, a leftist civil rights compliance officer from Baltimore. I disagreed with Doc on that, but I've known Jonathan Hayes for a long time, and I knew he was bad for the city because he's dishonest, he's a crony, and he can get a lot accomplished. That's bad, okay? And I mean, anyway, so all right. So now I have the last page here, and I did not make any notes on the last page, but I'm going to read the rest of his article and see if anything comes to mind. Mr. Branch, running against Doc Rowan, his election will require upon the ability of harnessing his individual talent and larger staff buy-in of his vision to upgrade the underlying, because, regular folks like us, we wouldn't see it. It's underlying. Only people like Alan and Tho and Josh Street and Jonathan Hayes, they see the underlying stuff. The unwashed masses like us, we don't see those things. The underlying programming of the city. It is difficult to restore public trust. That's known as a BFO rather. All right, in academic circles, a blatant flash of the obvious. For example, when many city residents are being overcharged for broken water meters, this feels like Alan Branch wrote it. I mean, that's how it feels to me. Anyway, that's true, though, that statement. As candidates, both are seeking to, like Trump. By the way, I don't like, for some reason, and I don't know if I can even explain why, it's more of a visceral reaction. I don't like the Trump 2.0. For some reason, I don't like that. Because it feels like tactical. I don't know what it's. That's not something I should even address at this point because I don't even know why it's hitting me wrong. For Mr. Branch, his election will require upon the ability of harnessing. I read that as a candidate, both are seeking to, like Trump, organize popular distrust of government as usual to promote their vision. That is progressivism, not populism. I don't give a shit what the academics say. But in fairness, I got to read it first to say that, right? I can't just say that. But I mean, you don't organize and manipulate populism. That is an elitist thing to do. Populism is an organic mood of the people. And it's a bottom-up thing where the politicians, they better listen. It's not the politicians and the strategists telling the people, you all don't understand the underlying situation and the core reasons for being so selfish not to want the rest of Bay County to enjoy the beauty of Beach Drive because that's your real motive. It's the dumbest thing I've ever read in my life from the smartest guy I've ever met in my life. All right. And that's basically it. All right. So I'm done with that. And I need to get out of here. I'm still not done with this tremendous project that I can't wait to share with you. But I had to set the record straight. Now, Tho Bishop, I believe, we talked today, is going to join me on the show to kick this around a little bit, to straighten my ass out. Also, he has been misinformed, but that's his fault, about property rights on Beach Drive, about the $8 million grant, about its ability to be repurposed. And that's his fault. And I've told him that I will get him documents that his people, his elitists, are either not showing him or he's not telling me about. But one more thing I want to point out about this, why this article is so bad. When Tho Bishop posted this Substack article, he said something about frustration and mistrust toward the current commissioners in Panama City is misplaced. Because City Hall was back in 2017, 2016. Okay. Again, it's another, like, I've never seen Tho Bishop be sneaky like this. Because I'm not going to go back to 2016 and 2017, even though your statement is incorrect. Jenna Halligus was there pushing it. So you're wrong anyway. But let's talk about what the current people have done. I'll just give you 4 things. I mean, it's such a misdirect. Let's go back to 2016. No, let's go to 2023, 2024. Okay. Start with this. $150 million loan. The city took out a $150 million loan. But the city says, we've invested the money and we're getting $5 million back. Isn't that great? Really? To service the $150 million debt that you borrowed the whole amount, you're paying $9 million to service that debt. You're getting $5 million back in investments. Now, 9 minus 5 is what? I'm an English guy. I barely got through college because of math, but I know that's a net loss. They're losing $4 million a year because the city, the people on there now, they voted to borrow $150 million from Truist Bank. Why would they do that? If you were a business, you would take out, if you needed a $150 million line of credit, and then you only take the money you need, so you're only paying interest on the money you actually borrow. You still have more if you want it. Why would they borrow the entire amount to lose $4 million a year? Hey, FBI. It sounds to me like somebody's getting some big damn kickbacks. There is no other rationale I can think of. So there's one thing, we don't have to go back to City Hall. Well, the people still have heartburn over City Hall. No, we have heartburn over that, though. Want to know another one? Well, let me tell you. These so-and-sos spent $1.3 million to put a new roof on the marina. And then they tore the marina down. Well, Bernie, I want to know another one. How about Mayor Rowan's been right on this one all along? Everybody knows that the city should have rebuilt that marina with the FEMA money, and they could have done it. And they lie to you. They lie to you. And they say, well, no, it would have been $60 million. No. You had a very well-respected contractor say that he could do that for the $35 million. They're lying to you. Instead, they say, well, we'll take the $35 million and we'll just sort of redo the Marina Civic Center. That's insane. Everybody knows it. So though we don't need to go back to City Hall, we can stay right here in the moment. And you know it more than anybody. Also, how about the still no answer on this, $500,000 grant, a DOT grant, $500,000. Guess what? The city got a few years ago, and they repurposed it. Just like they could repurpose the $8 million. And if you don't know that, you willfully don't know that. They're floating $500,000. Tell you another thing. Do you know who pushed for? The Beach Drive project for the $8 million grant? Jay Trumbull Sr. J. Trumbull Sr. That's who's pushing for it. Guess who just started an underground utilities company for a lot of this, causing major damage, by the way, because he doesn't know jack about underground construction. J. Trumbull Jr. Senator J. Trumbull just started a company, T&S, the little symbol, T&S, Construction Solutions. Look it up. J. Trumbull Jr. owns it, getting boatloads of money from the city. Talk about cronyism. No, Bernie, this is populism. But it's the underlying kind, though. It's the root cause populism that we can manipulate and control. Bernie, you gotta read this book. I will, because I need to know both sides of the argument. And if this book is right, and if populism is a tactic to control the masses for political power, I'll tell you what I learned. I gotta go. Jeez, doing so long. Hey, listen, if you appreciate what I'm trying to do, first of all, I want to thank you, those of you who throw a tip in the tip jar, as I like to say. Oh, look at this. There's TNS Construction right there. Gosh, I haven't done this in so long. I can't even find my patreon.com. So I'll pass on it. And I'll thank the unknown patriot for his support. See how I said his? I throw him off every time. And the rest of you, thank you so much for everything. And I will see you next time.